Welcome back to the Intelligent Builder podcast, sponsored by Plutus Agents. Today, I'm joined by Aimee Zhang, the founding member of and a broker at Real Residential in the Washington market. So, Amy's been in real estate for about a decade now and has worked across buyers, sellers, investors, and importantly for today, builders and land. So, we're going to focus this episode on the builder side, how builders partner with brokerages, what actually drives sales, what breaks, and how builders can get a stronger engine over time. So, Aimee, it's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course, yeah. So just for some quick background, how did you get into real estate in the first place and what really kept you in it?
hmm so prior to real estate, I had my own snack company, which we sold to one of our clients. And I had been in that industry for just shy of 10 years. So after I sold the snack company, I could have stayed in food. I could have stayed in the wellness segment, but I chose real estate because I've always loved it. I love everything that it inspires. I love interiors. I love working with people, client facing, negotiating, all of that. That's why I've continued to grow as a broker and continue to stay in the industry.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, there's so much opportunity in real estate too. There's a lot of different ways you can kind of tackle the industry, but you've done a lot across, buyers and sellers being a broker. But Real Residential also works with builders. So what kind of pulled the business towards that aspect of real estate?
Yeah, so we just have a lot of brokers in our company that either naturally gravitate towards new construction or, you know, um, that was something that they were interested in, and then we became experts in it. I mean, there are certainly more members and partners that are better versed in new construction than I. But I think we just happen to have a really good collective knowledge of that part of the industry. And then, when you are good at something, it's more opportunities or people seek you out. So I think that's why we have such a big presence in new construction.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. You have a bunch of different kind of founding members and there's a long tail to that story a little bit, but all that combined experience allows you to kind of tackle this new construction aspect of it too, which is really cool. So, what does that partnership look like between a builder and a brokerage? What are like the common versions of that?
Sure. Yeah. So at a high level, builder brokerage partnerships it's really strategy and then distribution. So the builder, like I want you to think of a new home or a plat of new homes as like a product, right? And so it could be like you're a cosmetics company and you're launching this lip gloss. Well, a new home or a new community is like a different color of lip gloss. How do you make it exciting and how do you make it stand out? Because at the end of the day, a house is a house, a lip gloss is a lip gloss. People can say that, right? And so you have to really bring like your a lot of creative strategy, positioning, pricing. You can't just market every community or every new home the way that you've always done it because the builder built this community or this home for a reason. Have, maybe there's a demand problem in this area, in this neighborhood. And there are a bunch of 1950, 70 homes that, present a lot of opportunity, because there's a lot of growth in this area or there's new accessibility to this area. So you have to really work with the builder and so they know what they're doing. So translating their intention into how you position and market the new home or the community is really key.
Just that partnership really brings the marketing and just true understanding of positioning on the real estate side. So that's what really most of the value comes from. What about like, are those partnerships exclusive or kind of preferred, or is it like a case by case kind of thing?
I've seen builders do both. So some builders will have their not necessarily in-house, but they'll have worked with agent X and Y for a number of years. They have a great relationship. They know what to expect. And that agent really understands the builder, understands the finishes, the story, and they can sell all of that, right? So that's one way. And then another is some builders actually like a more competitive landscape. They'll just work with different brokers, especially I think newer builders when they are not as established. They they don't have those relationships yet. And so it's kind of like testing agents to see who's the best fit for them, you know? And then you'll have like huge builders like D.R. Horton, Pulte, and they have site agents who are essentially like employees.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I've talked to a few builders that work with, real estate agents, but also some of them try to vertically integrate in bringing that in-house, which is
Mhm.
super, super, super interesting. But I guess with real residential or just in general, when a partnership really works between a builder and a broker, what are the ingredients that really make that successful?
So pricing and positioning is huge. Pricing something is all about perception. It's psychological. So it's a little bit different than looking at other new builds in the area and then say, well, house A sold for this per square feet, and we're just like that. So we're going to price it like that, right? Your build is probably going to be a little bit different. Your builder is a little bit different. Can you push the envelope a little bit? Where does your home add more value to the buyer? Sometimes it could even just be like the right colors or like a on-trend tile or something. So it's all about knowing how to maximize pricing. Good brokers are also not just listing brokers, but they're also buyer brokers. So they actively work with both. They understand some of the obstacles that could come up. They're solving problems ahead of time. They know what buyers want. So all of that experience and knowledge really add to their value as a listing broker.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And then buyer experience. So a good broker knows how to provide a good buyer experience. A builder, they build the home, right? So especially the smaller builders, they build the home. They're not thinking about the experience from A to Z after that home has been launched. It's a good broker will think about when they come drive up to the property, what do we want them to see? That experience starts the moment they drive up and park and look at the home. Do we want like low key branding? Do we want like something that's a little bit muted? Do we want something that's a little bit more showy? I mean, it really just depends on how the builder is doing their marketing. So you just want to be aligned with that. And then how easy is it to get inside the home? Is the something as simple as is the MLS key box obvious? One thing that our partners have done a really good job of, and I'm not actually sure if this is at their suggestion or if this is the builders, but for our super luxury listings, we actually don't allow, like, we keep the driveway clear. Yeah. So then if people are driving by, I mean, this is a few things. If people are driving by, they can experience the whole home. They can see the whole home, including the driveway. So it retains that curb appeal. And then, during an open house, you don't want anybody to get blocked in, right? So, and then the other is like, if you have an open house and let's say it's kind of a slow weekend, you don't want it to look like there are no cars there. So, there's all kinds of strategies and marketing tricks that we can do to, really show the home in the best light possible. And that all contributes to the overall buyer experience because, as I said earlier, perception is everything. So if a buyer thinks that this home is extremely desirable and a lot of people are looking at it and it's really busy, or they can't tell that it's not busy, that's going to affect their decision. Lastly, it's the execution. So it's really just kind of tying up everything that I've said earlier, just making sure that you have all the marketing done, that pricing, that you have like you have a pricing plan for the overall project. House A might not sell. Let's say you want to sell house A at 1.6, didn't quite sell at 1.6. Well, you've got house B. Maybe there's something that we can do there to make that up, right? It's not always about being rigid and having to sell each home at the specific price. There are different ways that you can make it up as a builder.
Yeah, that's super interesting. There's a lot of little things that go into it, like the driveway thing and the key box thing. And then you mentioned smaller builders. So let's say a smaller builder, right? They finish a new construction. What are some mistakes that they make to not properly, I guess, market the property? Or do they just do nothing?
I think the number one mistake is hiring the not the most experienced broker. I understand you want to give some brokers an opportunity. Maybe they've worked really hard to help you with the acquisition of the demolished property. Maybe they've really been your partner throughout the whole process. But when it comes to marketing and selling the home, you really want someone who is experienced. I wish I could say everyone will over deliver, but having a broker who, is resourceful, who, if they don't know something, they are going to find out the answers and really try to learn what they don't know. So a broker who's collaborative and resourceful if they're not experienced, right? And a broker who knows where their weaknesses lie. I think for us, we're extremely collaborative at Real. And if, let's say, a builder gives me an opportunity and it's in an area that I haven't worked in before, like not super familiar with, I would pull in another broker, either from Real or from a different brokerage, because at the end of the day, our representation of the client is our number one priority. So, I think some brokers just want the whole pie, but that doesn't really benefit anyone. So I think remaining collaborative and, if you don't know everything, that's okay. But remaining collaborative will get you there.
Okay, so those are some traits that you should look for in an agent is collaborativeness and being resourceful. Do you think that experience like really matters a lot when it comes to this?
Yes, but if you don't have the experience, because um I've had brokers who just got hooked up with like a first-time builder. So they're both doing it for the first time. And so that's okay. That's great. Like you all have to start somewhere, but and I think that project is still sitting when all the other projects are selling. It's really important that you don't try to, if you don't know something, then you have the instinct to find out, and you have, again, like that collaborative spirit to make it happen for your client. Um, so I think if you're inexperienced, partner with somebody who's experienced. You'll learn, you'll improve your craft, and the client will be super happy. It will work out for everybody.
Yeah, that's really good advice, actually. So when when a broker is working with a builder on, they just finished their construction, what are some things that really create momentum in the buyer seller process to get buyers, in there?
So in our area, we can't do coming soon, but what we can do is and I believe this is available to agents only, but we can do a letter of authorization. So we can create internal hype among the agents. And so we select this option called letter of authorization in the MLS. And then brokers who know about this and brokers who are looking at new construction for their clients, they can see what's active. And then that gives them the opportunity to reach out, ask questions, find out more about the project. So the other thing is, like, depending on the builder, you can create a website for them. I mean, sometimes it's not ideal to pre-market or create hype until the product actually launches, right? It just depends. I mean, there are just so many reasons and nuances that go into that. But if you want to, and if the situation calls for you to create some hype beforehand, you can do a website. You can invite a broker network to come to do hard hat tours. You can't really market it to the public, but you can have marketing material at the site. You can have a QR code, that goes to a website. You can have an agent who's there between 1 and 5 every day to answer questions. So there are different ways that you can launch that momentum. But once that product launches, you have to have pricing, positioning, and execution. So everything has to be ready to go, right? So at the first impressions are everything. So at the first open house on the day of your launch, you want to make sure that the home is clean. Like, you won't believe how many new construction homes I go to. I'm being asked to take my shoes off, but when I'm done, the bottom of my socks are not clean, you
Huh.
know? So you want to make sure that the home is clean. You want to make sure that it's staffed properly with with the site agents or the brokers. You want to make sure that all of your marketing is ready to go, that you can hand those things off. You have a way to communicate and follow up with people. Um, so because the first, and again, this is very subjective. Every area, micro market, and every city is different, and every project is different, but you want to just make sure that you're really selling within the expected time frame, right? So in some areas, let's say other new construction have sold within 2 weeks. You should really be selling within 2 weeks too, if you have a like product. And if you're not, then something didn't go right.
Really good to know. That's actually funny you mentioned the cleanliness because my brother just moved into a place. I mean, this was back in the fall, but like the floor was disgusting. Like you couldn't walk without getting a bunch of nasty shit in your feet. Like I totally understand that. And then it's
Yeah.
actually super interesting that in the Washington market, you can't do the coming soon stuff.
Not for our MLS. We cannot
Okay.
do the coming soon yet. I mean, there are some decisions I think being made as we speak, but you know, as far as our brokerage is concerned, we haven't. Well, maybe I should just speak for myself. I am not aware at this moment of any final decisions that we can do it.
Okay. Yeah, I just found that interesting because, I'm in Connecticut, so that it's very different over here, obviously, other side of the country. But
Yeah.
I wanted
When you
to,
guys
no,
when
you
you
go.
guys have coming soon, how far in advance can a property be marketed?
Very good question. I actually have no idea. Yeah.
That would just be interesting because if you can market something a month in advance, I feel like that's almost too long.
Yeah, it's going to be sold by the time it's actually out.
Yeah, and also it just seems a little bit stale, but I also realize that our market moves a little bit faster than other markets.
I know that makes sense. Yeah. You spoke earlier about the level of service that, real residential provides with buyers. It's like a concierge type support. So what do you think
Mhm.
builders can learn from that and how they treat buyers, say if they're not working with an agent or a
Well,
broker?
that's their first mistake is not working with an agent.
Okay, there you
If
go.
I mean, I really do think that not only are we a good buffer for between the buyer and the product, but also, because we're the ones who are actively helping people buy and sell different types of product all the time, we bring a lot of market knowledge, expertise, and that really help guide that emotional journey where builders are more just like numbers and spreadsheets and they're not emotional at all, right? And so we translate those feelings into action. But let's say you're a smaller builder and you don't, because all the bigger builders have either site agents or they work with known brokers and experienced brokers. But let's say that you're a smaller builder and you're just starting out and you want to do this on your own. I mean, first you have to be licensed. So you have to be able to you have to be an agent to sell real estate and write contracts. Oh, and I forgot the question. I'm sorry.
Um, so real residential provides, concierge level type support. So if a builder wants to replicate that in a way without working with a broker, what should that look like? Even though they should work with
Oh,
a
yes,
broker.
yes, yes, yes. Yeah. Okay. That would be giving away our secrets, but if they insisted on doing it, I think again it's just going back to the three things, right? So pricing and positioning, then knowing how to guide properly guide that buyer experience and making sure that the buyer has a really positive experience from beginning to end. And it's not going to be a perfect experience. Things are going to come up. Maybe the buyer bought a pre-sale and now completion is delayed. Well, as the person that's making the product, you're going to have to find a way to explain that to the buyer while protecting yourself without giving away too much leverage, but also being transparent enough with the buyer so that they feel comfortable going forward. So those are all very tricky things to balance, right? But builders have to just be prepared to do that. And it's two totally different roles, being the builder and being the person who is helping the buyer navigate all of those things. And then, again, it's the execution. So making sure that you are executing pricing and positioning properly and executing that buyer experience. And, the other thing is if you have a bigger project, it's going to take longer to sell. So you have to have plan A, plan B, you have to be changing your marketing all the time. And you have to constantly be thinking about this project from a marketing and from a consumer facing standpoint, right? And you have to do that while being the builder. And it's really hard for builders. I think for anyone, like a builder at the end of the day is a seller. So I mean, there are going to be obstacles, there's going to be frustration, and so you just have to be prepared for that.
To me, it just sounds like you should work with a broker either way.
Yes,
It's like
exactly.
it's like entirely two different sides. Like you have to change your entire mentality. You have to change your entire personality too to deal with the buying side of it. Like it just makes more sense to work with a broker, an agent.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people are like, "Oh, well, how is that different than for sale by owner?" It's very different. I mean, new construction, you have different phases. Okay, I'll just give you one example, like one very specific example. So let's say you've built like four. It's a tiny project, so you have four homes. I think an inexperienced broker would say, or a builder who is representing themselves would say, "Let's stage all four, put them all on the MLS, and they'll sell, and we'll be done with it." It's really not that simple. When you stage and publicly market all four, buyers can now track the entire project's activity and pricing and momentum. So if you just market one, you can create a little bit of hype for the other ones. It gives you more room to make up pricing if you need to, or it gives you some room to come down on pricing if you need to. So it helps you stay agile. And then staging all four homes is just not like good practice, especially if they look exactly the same. You just need one model home, you know? Um, so it's just being aware of things like that. And it's just really all about strategy. Um, an experienced broker will have worked in all types of new construction, um, and have that experience and scenarios under their belt. So they're going to be able to tell you, you don't want to do this before you do it. So you don't have to experience the pain firsthand, right?
And that's always a better way to go about things. But it sounds like so with your example, if you list all four at the same time, you're just getting rid of your leverage in a way. Like if they see one house was priced at this, then the buyer then has leverage to negotiate more. Is that true or not really?
I mean, there's just not a lot of strategy in that, right? I mean, you're taking the same approach as selling one home to launch one home versus the entire project. So, I mean, yes, you do lose leverage because, I mean, for yourself, right? So let's say that like the market is amazing when you sell the first home and you sell it for 1.5, but then the market just kind of, for our area in the Pacific Northwest and the Seattle east side, summer is typically actually a very slow time. People go on vacation. We wait all year for summer. That's the most beautiful time of year. That's when kids have vacation. And so people are kind of out of town. They're not really in the mindset to buy a new home. Plus, they want to be in their new home before the end of summer. So August is kind of for buyers in our area, August is a great time to buy, typically, historically. But let's say that you like sell the first one, top of the market in spring for 1.5. And then things slow down and it's August. Now you have, and let's say that your projected price, your target price was 1.2 for each home. Well, now you have that room to do some creative pricing, however you want to do it for the home that's sitting, right? So it just gives you more room to make changes to the overall financial outcome of your project.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I appreciate you breaking that down. Yeah. And then you sort of talk about your market, right? So I'm curious what you're seeing in your market in terms of buyer behavior. Is anything changing recently, or do you think it'll change soon?
Yeah. So for non-luxury, so for us, 3 million and under. So actually, let me break it down even more finitely. So anything under a million that's a single family home actually is seeing slower traction because there seems to be more inventory. And I'm only speaking about that at this time, right? So if you had talked to me in January about this, it would have been different. But right now, there seems to be a lot of inventory. Certain neighborhoods are seeing a lot of saturation too. So we have this one neighborhood on the east side that typically, so it's got the trifecta effect of elementary, middle, and high school being some of the highest rated in the area. And typically, we see very few homes selling. But right now, we're seeing like 5 or 6 in the same neighborhood. And our buyers are so sensitive to this market. Like having 5 or 6 homes is enough to make them go, whoa, that's a lot of options. What's going on? Something's wrong. It just really makes them question things. And so we're kind of surprisingly seeing slower activity in the area. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in that area right now. And then for, the 1 to 2 million, we're seeing a lot of homes that look the same. So a lot of spec homes, a lot of, more of the cookie cutter homes. Those have a hard time selling. They're just competing against each other. And then we have like the luxury homes, which is 3 million and up, which is typically on the east side. And those seem to be doing well. So
Yeah,
our
and
market is a little bit different. Our market is it's not for the lighthearted.
well, no, I appreciate the breakdown again. That's super, super helpful. Staying on this topic, and I want to ask you one more question. So on the buyer side of things in your market, is there anything that on the builder side of things in your market, is there anything that they should be looking out for or thinking about in the next 1 to 2 years? I know it's always changing, and that's a long time frame. So even sooner, really.
I mean, our builders in our area are so dialed in. You know, it, it's hard for me to think of anything that they could be doing better. I mean, they are so agile now. I've seen, so for example, like in the past, we've seen every builder copying each other when it comes to design and finishes and color palettes. But now I'm seeing builders really trying to differentiate themselves in terms of style and aesthetic. And then, just the floor plans, they all have that really dialed in too. Like all the larger homes typically have a guest suite on the main floor, right? Because we're there's a lot of multi-generational living in our area. And also it's just kind of hard to it's just if you have a lot of kids and you probably need help. So you either have a nanny, au pair, or maybe your parents helping out from time to time. Okay, I will say this. So that is when I'm thinking of that, I'm actually thinking of like 2 specific styles. So I'm thinking of like the townhome style, which they're all super dialed in. And then I'm thinking of the luxury homes, which is like 3 million and above. So we do have, I think, a shortage in our area for new construction that's like around 1 to 1.2, which is unfortunately, it's kind of an entry price level for our area. But speaking of the multi-generational, I know everybody hates split levels. I am here to tell you that split levels are just the best. The best. So do you know what a split level style is?
Explain it
They
anyway.
were like really, yeah, really prevalent in the 70s. So you go in the front door and then you either go up to the main floor or you go down to the basement, right? So
Hmm.
not everybody will know what a split level is. They're different from tri-levels. Tri-level, you enter from the front door and then you go to the main area. But the split, you really have to go either up or down. Okay, so split levels work out great for grandparents, aging parents, for like, your teenage kids, right? So and they're compact too. So I think that builders just need to start building split levels.
And the most practical, it makes the most sense.
So practical. So practical. And they don't, you don't have to make this super luxurious split level. Although I have seen some really aesthetically appealing split levels, um, where they've just done some very interesting, like wood and metal exterior details. Like it looks great. So I think that's just my 2 cents. I would love to see new construction split levels.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let's see split levels back in action. Well, hey, thank you, Aimee. This has been great. I mean, appreciate you kind of keeping it practical, and especially on the builder side of things, it was awesome. But before we close out, though, is there anywhere people should find you or connect with you? Maybe a website or LinkedIn?
Yeah, so my website is aimeezhang.com. So it's AIMEEZHANG.com. And then my Instagram is Aimee Zhang RE for real estate. So they can find me there. And then, of course, if they always want to look up our company, they can go to realresidential.com.
Okay, thank you. I'll link that below so people can find you. But for everyone listening, thank you for tuning in to The Intelligent Builder. If you found this episode valuable, make sure to share with a builder or founder in your circle. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you, Aimee.
Thank you.